It's not just about the software, it's about how you implement and how you redesign the business. Most businesses don't have the experience to understand how to create the blueprint. They go in and they focus on the features and importing in the data, not understanding where things will connect. They still think in silos, but when they're integrated, the workflows flow across both packages. Choosing the software is an element, but it's also how you implement it, how you redesign the system, and then how you involve your team in redesigning the processes and the way that they work. You have to create the blueprint. Before you build the house, you need the blueprint.
Welcome back to another episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. Today, I am joined by Jeffrey Atizado. He is the CEO and co-founder of SMB Consultants, one of Australia's original cloud integration firms. What started in 2008 when a broken point of sale system in his own retail store has since grown into a category-defining consultancy serving retail, wholesale, and manufacturing businesses across Australia and New Zealand. Under his leadership, SMB has earned multiple Sin7 Global Awards, become a Zero Preferred Partner, and was invited into Apple's exclusive Mobility Partner Program. Jeff and I met through Daniel Priestley's mastermind group, Dent, and I was pleasantly surprised to discover just how parallel our businesses are. He's doing for retail and wholesale what we do in the painting industry, which is helping owners cut through the noise of disconnected software and build integrated systems that actually run their business. So today we're going to dig into cloud integration, what it takes to really implement technology in small, mid-sized businesses, and what it's like to bootstrap a company and define a category that didn't exist before he showed up. So first of all, Jeff, I'm super excited for this conversation. I don't know about you, but I have all this knowledge in my head. The way I describe it to friends is like 99.999% of the world couldn't give two F's about what I know. And there's a very small sliver that is like, oh my gosh, you're literally the guy that I needed. And I love those moments. So I feel like we'll actually be able to have conversations or have a conversation that, is going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, that's cool. As you said, when I started this journey, it didn't even exist. We kind of created that category for ourselves. So it's actually good to see that there are other people now that are like sort of following that and following the same path.
So how did you and your co-founder Peter essentially like came up with Cloud Integrator? Is that right? There wasn't really, obviously there were integrations, I assume, or was that term even loosely defined at the time?
No, actually how the story goes is we were installing point of sale at the time, and we were the guys that were getting rid of cash drawers, getting rid of the cash registers that sat on top of retail shops. And we were putting in a system called Lightspeed, and Lightspeed ran on a Mac computer, right? And a lot of retail shops wanted to have that shiny Mac experience in their retail shops. This is 2008 going back, right? Mm-hmm. And so Lightspeed at the time had a really nice point of sale that looked like the iTunes interface, because at that time, that's when the iPod was becoming really, really popular. And so a lot of people wanted that Apple experience. And then in 2008 is when the iPad came out. Cloud technology became more available and accessible. And then Xero, the accounting package based in New Zealand, was sort of making a lot of ground in terms of replacing MYOB as the de facto on-premise accounting package. So it was kind of this perfect storm of businesses wanting to move to the cloud, products like Xero and another point of sale called Vend, which was also native. It was a New Zealand product as well, and it was natively in the cloud. It was this perfect storm of the iPad becoming available, people wanting to move to the cloud, and then software packages being native in the cloud, and then introducing integration that sort of, we saw the opportunity of doing more than just putting in iPads as cash registers. And when what we were doing caught wind, we actually had a meeting with the MD and founder of Xero at the time, Chris Ridd and Rod Jury. And they caught wind of what we were doing with integrating Vend and Xero at the time. And while integration was sort of loosely being tossed around and was being used in discussions, they hadn't really actually seen how integration worked firsthand. So they came to our office.
And is this like where this is like pre, or I'm assuming like APIs? There wasn't a ton of standardization around like webhooks and events and things like that. Is that correct?
That's right. APIs were available, but they were all bespoke. People had to build everything bespoke. So the difference was that with Vend integrating to Xero, Vend is the point of sale. They had a turnkey integration to Xero, and they also had a turnkey integration to Shopify. So at the time, it was just this simple triangle of integrated apps. And we showed that to the MD and the founder of Xero at the time, and they looked at it and they went, wow, like more people need to see this. And they're like, we signed up to Xero as Xero partners, and we became gold partners in a very short period of time. But ironically, we weren't bookkeepers or accountants, right? And so they went, well, we can't have you categorically in a bookkeeper or an accountant's channel because they'll see you as competitors. So we need to create a new category of consultant called a cloud integrator. And that's sort of how it was born, was in that conversation. And from that, we actually sort of evolved, and even Apple, they had their own program where they didn't even acknowledge cloud integrators at the time, because everything that they did in their professional services program was revolving around server maintenance and raids, and it was all on-premise stuff. And we helped them define a new category or class of integrator that revolved around integrating cloud apps.
That's so cool. Yeah, we were way later. So I started doing this in the painting world. Just like I have an interesting backstory. I went engineering through college, graduated from college, had my first engineering job, quit after 6 months, and was just like, I hate this. And I started a marketing company, which was basically like Chris bought a drone, knew that he didn't want to do engineering, but didn't know what else to do. So I was living in my mom's attic and was like, I guess I'm just going to take aerial photos and videos and try and sell it to anyone that wants to buy it. Long story short, that evolved over 6 years into like a small, medium-sized business, I call it the stereotypical millennial marketing company. Like we could figure out how to make websites and do Facebook ads and Google ads. And like, we just were a bunch of like hackers basically that were determined. And so I learned marketing firsthand and building a business, but then I never had taken a business class. So I did many things wrong, but I learned a ton in that 6-year span. And I went and ended up as the marketing director for a painting company that was trying to rapidly scale. And this was in 2019 is when I joined Webfoot, this painting company. And they were like 10 million-ish approximately, maybe 9 million when I joined. And they were trying to basically double in size over as, a 3-year period if they could. And so I was in charge of the marketing spend, and I was just like, I don't have good data to make any decisions. So I just started like researching, like, how do we get, it's just the classic example, which now I'm super familiar with and really well, where people are like, oh, we got to go get this CSV from our CRM and then go over here and export this from QuickBooks and then take this from our project management. And it was just like, to see anything, it took, a week of like, not a week, full day, let's say, of like trying to get a report so I could see a dashboard. And then it was like, is this even accurate? Like, who's putting in the data, and the fields in this system don't match that system. And so then you're guessing and whatnot. So I basically was just trying to solve a marketing problem, and I like researched Zapier and started watching YouTube videos. And then I was like, oh, I can have this happen and whatnot. So that evolved, but that was in 2020. And you had already been at this for 12 years at that point?
You're making me feel old now.
That's awesome to know that. Like, it's so funny how you think everybody like thought I was, like I thought that, because people are like, oh, this is really innovative, and then you like with everything in the world, you like poke your head up and start looking around, and it's like, oh, of course there's like hundreds of people that also discovered the same problem in a different industry in a different part of the world. Like, and it's just, you come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, I think it's born from the entrepreneurial spirit of being able to see a problem and then being able to problem solve and think outside the box. For us, it was just, like I said, it was a perfect storm. It was like Apple, iPad, moving to the cloud. And then there were software solutions in market that were already solving for that problem. Maybe in your industry, it was a little bit later that the bespoke sort of painting specific apps weren't available yet. Because I mean, there was obviously lots of other industries. Like we started with retail because that's my background, retail. And then we ended up expanding into hospitality because then hospitality was also very prime for, cafes and restaurants. We had a whole stint where we did hospitality, but there were other industries as well, like agriculture and medical that, were ripe for that evolution, but the software solutions weren't available. There was no software stack. So it's like, that was kind of the thing that held people back. So I think the discovery of the opportunity also comes from maybe you going, okay, well, I can see the problem here. This piece of software, I'll do a bit of research. Oh, that looks like it could be a good key to solving the problem. And I can wrap a service around that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what ended up happening was I, over the course of 3 years, just tinkering, and it wasn't even my job. It was just like, I was trying to do my marketing job better by integrating and saving time. And then it was like, over the lunch table, someone's like, yeah, every Friday we have to send out like 47 emails that are copy and pasted to all of our appointments for next week. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, you're like, why would you do that? And there was like this level of, for me, of just like, I refuse to accept that a repetitive task like that cannot be automated, and then it would go dig into figuring it out. And then I was just trying to tell other marketing directors of painting companies that we were in like a mastermind group as the Webfoot was with other painting companies. And I was like, yeah, check out what I just did. And like, I didn't think it was a big deal, but it was after telling people like, hey, I did this. And they were like, oh, how'd you do that? I was like, oh, I watched these YouTube videos. So I sent them the YouTube videos. And then they were like, it didn't work for us. Could you do it? And I was like, oh, well, no, I got a job, but good luck, But after enough people asked, it was like, wait a minute, there's something here that like I didn't see. Even when I was doing it, it wasn't, the scale of the problem was not obvious. And now, like, that was 3.5 years ago that I left Webfoot, and I've been doing the same thing that I did for Webfoot, but it's now evolved, and we do so much more. Like what Webfoot has now would be considered a dinosaur compared to what we're doing now. And it's just like, when you dive deep into something, I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, but it seems like it's a never ending, it's just deeper, and you can go deeper into the same problem, and you just keep turning over stones and uncovering tangential problems or other things, reinventing the way that you did it before. Like, yeah, that's been my experience.
Yeah, I think I've reinvented the company probably 3 times already. As you got to remember, in 15 years, technology moves really quickly, right? And if you're not able to evolve, there's many businesses that started the same time we did and don't exist anymore. Even a lot of SaaS companies, so I think you do have to reinvent yourself.
What were some of the major shifts that, or maybe the biggest one that you feel like was challenging, or you hesitated, or like, what was the decision? How did you come to the decision it was time to just scrap everything and start over?
Okay. Well, one big one was, as I said, we started in retail, and then as the software solutions allowed us to, we expanded into wholesale and manufacturing, but then we also did hospitality, right? So restaurants, cafes, bars, etc. So it was really like 2 sides of the business, retail and hospitality. But then COVID hit, right? And COVID, I mean, we didn't even know if we were going to have a business. Everything shut down, as you know. And the fallout from COVID was that hospitality businesses were hit very hard. They were basically forced to continue to run their business using delivery apps that were really like charging them an arm and a leg in terms of service fees. So it became very margin heavy and very stressful. So we had to make a very big decision as to whether or not we continue doing that. So we decided to get rid of our entire hospitality customer base, which was in the hundreds. And we doubled down on retail, which was evolving then into omni-channel and D2C, which is like direct to customer. So it's like businesses now, instead of like having 80% brick and mortar stores and expanding through physical location and 20% online. COVID flipped that on its head. Businesses went to like 90% online, maybe 10% of stores, and even some businesses not having any brick and mortar. They just operate out of a warehouse and they do D2C. So that was a massive pivot for us. It changed the business significantly by getting rid of hospitality, which is not an easy decision. You've got hundreds of clients that are paying customers, and it was a very healthy revenue stream. But we had to make that decision to cut that loose.
How do you, I'm curious if you could tell me about that. How did you, like, what does that mean? Because if I'm understanding correctly, they have 4 apps to run their business, the restaurant. You're the glue that connects those apps together, right?
Yeah.
So if you say we're not servicing you anymore, was it just like, sorry guys, like we don't have a business, or you're not like, we can't provide this. And then they're just like, what do you mean? And is their business like...
No, we weren't leaving businesses astray. Basically, the software companies, the SaaS companies that were still installed, that we installed into their business, we handed over back to the SaaS companies, and then they continued to manage the relationship and the support. But I mean, these businesses were already up and running with solutions. You know, we have already delivered. The ongoing relationship was a support relationship, which then just got handed over back to the SaaS company. Yeah, so we weren't leaving businesses sort of high and dry and saying, "Hey, we can't help you out anymore." It's just we were handing over that support relationship back to the software vendor.
But were you guys custom coding integrations between apps for each customer?
Never done any custom integration work. It's never been part of our business model.
Okay, so what is maybe that's another place to go, is what is the offer that you guys do currently?
The second, I guess, evolution was to make sure that we've always been industry specific, much like you. Like, I think one of our successes in region is being very specific on what our ICP is. So if it was retail and hospitality or retail, wholesale and manufacturing, it was very clear in terms of the industry focus. And with that comes being able to go out and do the research and scope out which software programs are best in class and create a software stack, right? So one of the people at Xero called me the Lego master. I was the guy that would go out and find all the apps that would create a software stack to manage all the different operational sides of the business, right? Well, after COVID, there was a huge market consolidation. There was a lot of companies that got acquired, like TradeGecko got acquired by QuickBooks, and Lightspeed acquired Vend and Counta, and Sin7 acquired Deer. And all of a sudden, we went from having this portfolio of software solutions to all of a sudden having one, which was Sin7, right? So it wasn't our choice. It was just the way, the market trends and the things that happen. And we still support Sin7, and it's our main implementation inventory piece of software. But now we've diversified and are going into warehouse management, because we see now that there are like D2C businesses need to be able to manage their busy warehouses and manage pick, pack, and fill. So as the software evolves and the businesses evolve, the solutions evolve, right? So you're constantly having to curate the problems that are in market and the solutions that help solve those problems. I kind of think of it like, if you're a carpenter, you've got a tool belt, and you can only fit so many tools on the tool belt, right? You can't have 100 tools hanging off your hip. So every single tool that's in your toolkit needs to be curated. It's not got to fix a specific job and do a specific task, right? And if you're going to add more to your toolkit, you've got to let something else go, or if something automatically becomes obsolete, then you got to look for another tool to put in your toolkit that will fix either the same problem, or maybe a different problem, because the needs have changed. That's right.
Yep.
And I'm sure you've done this, right? You've gone through this process yourself.
The way I like to I tell people that, like, it all starts with data blueprinting. Like, you have to absolutely, like, the analogy I use every time is like, people don't realize it, but well, first of all, the most common thing that people will ask me, painting companies will say, "What's the perfect tech stack for a painting business?" And I'll say, I don't know, what's the perfect house to live in?
Yeah, it depends.
You know,
That's my answer.
Do you have kids? What do you like to do? Do you like hosting? Do you want to be downtown in a condo? Do you want to have land? Do you want chickens? Like the perfect house, not only does it change from person to person, but most likely it changes throughout your life. And your tech stack is going to evolve in your business based on the size and the technology that's available and your services and all that stuff. And also, like, how fast do you want to grow? What's your current revenue? What's the revenue that you want to be at in 3 to 5 years? So I start with that frame of just like, I can't answer the question, what's the best for you, until I know more about your business, and then I can make some recommendations. But the other thing is that if you don't make a blueprint on the problems, like what are the functional things and issues that you have right now, and what, like, let's describe the feature that a software would have to solve that problem. And then I like to say, you don't want to go shopping for software, you want to go hunting. Because when you go shopping for software, you end up talking to a bunch of sales reps that are showing you all these cool features and widgets and shiny things and cool dashboards that blink and notify you. And then, but that's not necessarily what your business needs. Your business you already know the problems of your business. And now that we've done this over and over with painting, I can probably anticipate and tell you what problems are coming for your business. And so let's solve those problems and go hunting for the apps that are going to like solve those problems, because there's hundreds of softwares just for painting that are all viable, real, like, things to consider. And there are hundreds of apps there's literally thousands. I think I saw a statistic that there's like 2,000 apps created every single day just on the Apple App Store. And so it's like, how many other apps that are not on the App Store or on Google Play or whatever? There are a lot of apps getting created all the time, and AI is just accelerating that further. So shopping around is just not a good idea.
The problem you describe is the one of app paralysis. It's actually a topic that I've been asked to speak on a lot in the Xero ecosystem. Because when we started with the Xero ecosystem, they had 300 apps. Now they're well over, I think, 1,500. And the trap that businesses fall into is exactly that. They go shopping for features and benefits, etc. The traditional process would have been to do an RFP and have a long list of like, these are the features I'm after. Can you do it or not? Right. And in my experience, that's part of the solution, the assessment and the suitability. But it's more important, like, it's not just about the software, it's about how you implement and how you redesign the business. And it
Round it.
Yeah, it goes to your point of creating a blueprint. Most businesses don't have the experience to understand how to create the blueprint. They go in and they focus on the features and importing in the data, not understanding where things will connect. So we use that same idea of creating a blueprint in terms of how you redesign the system, because the software is going to have capabilities and limitations, but you also have to map out, like, well, how does that affect your workflow? What businesses sometimes fail to see is that they still think in silos. They still think my accounting package is my accounting package, and maybe my project management software is my project management software. But when they're integrated, the workflows flow across both packages, right? So the feature set that you might be shopping for in one package is actually the combination of what it also connects to. And that's what they don't see, because that's not on the package, right? It's not on the packaging. They may see it in terms of like, does it integrate to Xero? Tick. But then it never tells you how it integrates, right? Like, there's different levels of integration. Like, it could be just a one-way push. It could push first name, last name, and they could call that an integration.
Yes. Yep.
So I think there's a lot of, that's the trap that businesses fall into, is they go feature shopping and they look for logos for compatibility. But in my experience, I could have two businesses that fundamentally look the same on the surface. Maybe they have the same number of staff, same turnover, same number of physical locations, sell the same product. But inherently, what makes them different is the software they're coming from and the people that work in the business currently, because the people are always going to be different, right? So to your point, when you were asking like, oh, it depends, like, what makes a perfect home? Well, that's actually dependent on the people that are going to live in it, right? So it's a people problem. as much as it is a software problem.
How do you address the people problem, or what questions are you looking into? How does that change your offer to the potential client?
Fundamentally, we have to shift their buying belief away from thinking that software alone is the silver bullet, right? We have to get them to fundamentally understand that choosing the software is an element, but it's also how you implement it, how you redesign the system, and then how you involve your team in redesigning the processes and the way that they work, right? Because you will come across a lot of businesses that will have failed implementations and they have the right software, right? But they're not using it right and they haven't taken the time to redesign how they operate. And then that ultimately is what gives us our methodology, our impact methodology, which is basically incorporating in not just the software implementation, but also the people side and the processes.
When you implement for somebody, you're also doing the training for the staff?
100% we're doing the training for the staff, but I think even before you do the training, you have to create the blueprint, as you say, right? So we have a process that allows a business to go through and we work through all of their requirements. We understand how they're currently working, because the way that they currently work is their operating system, is what I like to call it. It's what they know, right? And another common mistake businesses make is they find the new software, but then they inherit their old workflows using new software, right? Because that's their operating system. So they haven't taken the time to go, well, first of all, if they've done it themselves, or maybe they haven't involved themselves in a process like ours, most of the time people will just focus on the migration of data, right? So they will go, I'm going to move from this house to that house, and I'm just going to move my contents from here to there, but there's no redesign process in that, right? So for us, in order to achieve a good result, it has to focus on a stage before you go and implement and train. Before you build the house, you need the blueprint.
Yeah.
And many businesses, when they implement software, they don't take that step of designing the blueprint and understanding, well, okay, we did it this way before, but actually that might change. Inherently, things will change when you implement new software. Things won't be the same. So how do we recraft and redesign workflows to leverage the benefits of the integration, to reduce double entry, to make your business more efficient, to make sure that we're satisfying the requirements of all the different stakeholders in the business? Like there could be ops people, there could be owners, there could be finance people. They all weigh in terms of what the solution needs to do to run the business. But if they've never sat around the table to discuss what they need it to do, then they end up, working against each other. They're all sort of competing for their own, competing to make sure that their needs are heard.
What is the, I'm thinking I'm trying to piece together our method or strategy, product offer, whatever you want to call it, and yours. So I think fundamentally from the strategy, I think is the same. So I'll tell you from our perspective, it's the data blueprint. It's 4 steps. So data blueprint, then there's the building, and then training. Building and training is the same thing. So we build the integration, connect everything, train your staff on it. Then we migrate the system. So you like a hard switch. I feel like, I don't know if you would agree, but big problem that I see is when the migration stretches over a month or 6 months or a year. So it's crazy that I just very rarely is it necessary to have it take that long. And I would say, I like to describe I'll come back to migration, but so it's the first 3, migration is the third. And then the last one is just then you've got your reports and the source of truth, which is really what everybody's after, is creating, I need better dashboards. I need better information. I've been more business intelligence. That's the 4th step, what they really are desiring. But the first 3 have to happen in that order. So that's our offer. The way that we deliver it is through a integration. Like we used to do Zapier and Make or N8N, those types of tools. And we would just, line these up. But since we're literally targeting painting companies specifically, it got to a point after a dozen of these where it's we actually found the most efficient way to do this. And so then we evolved into these are the 7 apps that most $5 to $20 million painting companies find most effective. So this is our standard package. If you want something else, we could do it. But I really personally just discourage going and like finding a different CRM just for the sake of it. Like HubSpot works great. It's scalable. It's easy. It's, so that's the CRM that we recommend. And then we have Paint Scout for estimating. And so we go through all these different tools. And because it's the same 7 apps, instead of using Zapier and Make, we built a software that is the integration layer that replaces what we were doing in Zapier and Make to basically create these custom integrations that are all managed on the platform. So each client integrates their 7 apps into the PaintOS integration platform. And that's like what creates the workflows and data syncing between the apps. So that's what we offer right now. That was an evolution. It didn't start like that. Is that, or how similar is that to how you tackle in the e-commerce world?
Somewhat similar. I mean, for the most part, what you're saying is you've gone out, you've done the research, you've created a software stack that knows work. It's vetted, right? It produces consistent results, and so this would be your go-to stack because as a stack, it covers off all the bases that operationally a painting business would want to look at, right? So I think that's what we do. I mean, as I've said before, every tool has to serve a purpose in the toolkit. So you've said there's 7 apps that are in your toolkit, and then you've gone out. I think the only difference with us is we don't go out and build integrations, and we tend to not try to use Zapier for robust integrations because Zapier can be temperamental at times. We use it internally for communications and mailing lists and things like that. But in terms of core integrations, I have a hard time relying on Zapier for that. But yeah, if that's your software stack and it's vetted, that's what you have in your toolkit, right? And you go, each one of these apps solves a problem in your business. And I'm telling you that, like, I've chosen HubSpot and it should be able to do 90% of what you need it to do. And it has a good integration, right? So, and we know, so are there other ones out there? Maybe, yeah, and you don't need to be claimed to know them all and to be an expert in all of them. You just need to claim to say, I know what's out there, and I know HubSpot is one of the best, and it works well, and we've got a good track record for it, right? So, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What you guys do. Yeah, it is similar. There's always going to be a limit. Like we don't deal with CRMs because there's so many CRMs in that space, right? Depending on what you want it to do, we can give them some high level advice. But I always say, like, you need to build your business like you build, like a GP would build a GP practice, right? A general practitioner would know how to create an assessment for a customer and know what to prescribe medications for, but they would have an extended network of specialists that they would work with when they diagnose something that falls outside of their scope, right? So we work with a network of specialists to bring in, if we do need custom integrations that we don't deliver, we've got a network of custom integrators that we can work with. We work with Shopify partners. We work with bookkeepers and accountants, CFOs. We work, so there's this extended network that clients also get access to, but we don't need to pitch ourselves as being experts at everything.
You're just the one that has the vantage point of all of them, and you're like the architect.
We're the project lead. We're the ones that are making sure that we're coordinating. When you actually build the house, you're going to have a plumber, an electrician, and a carpenter, and they all have to build the house, but you need somebody to coordinate all of them, right? Because they all bring to the table a specific service. So we don't need to do all of those things. We don't want to be web developers or designers. We don't want to be accountants, but they are critical to building the house, right? So, and we understand the conversations in terms of how we work together. But ultimately, the plumber doesn't want to do the electrician's job, and the electrician doesn't want to do the carpenter's job, right?
Right.
They all want to just do what they're good at.
How do you see, this is something that I've been stressed about, just spending a lot of time thinking on AI, and just like the argument of, okay, the cost of software development is going to zero, right? I don't know how much you play around with any of the AI tools to just make apps, whether just for fun or if you're actually using them in the business or whatnot. But it's like, it's mind boggling. Like how fast it's developing. And there's a part of me that's like, yeah, what is that? I don't actually think software is dead. Like there's that claim that's out there, or people have made the claim that like, oh, everyone will just be able to prompt like they're all in one system with their voice. And why would they need other CRMs or other tools that are out there? Because you can just make it all yourself. But I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm trying to go deeper into what are the principles that are going to be true in the world where software is essentially free to create, you know? And I don't know if you've thought about that at all.
It's on everybody's mind. Does anyone have the answer? No. We can speculate, but I mean, just from my own perspective, I always ask the question is my business obsolete? It's like what I'm doing, like how am I going to be replaced with AI? I mean, the people element is I think the element that can't replace us because inherently people are imperfect, right? The interesting thing of what we do, even though we are technology specialists and integration specialists, the heart of what we do is we manage people. As you said, if a project goes 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, a year, what causes a project to be extended? Is it the technology?
Yeah, the technology is done in a week, typically, a couple days.
What makes it go 6 months to a year? It's the people, right? So how is AI going to manage that problem? That's what I ask myself, because that's the problem. And what do people inherently pay me for? Well, inherently, they don't actually come to us for this, but inherently what we solve for them is their limited time and resources. They could do it themselves, but at the end of the day, they're willing to pay me because they know that I will help them manage their limited time and resources. And can AI replace that? Not yet, right? That's why I still have a business.
Yeah.
In terms of like AI replacing software, yes, there will continue to be an erosion of software packages that I think are on the cusp. Like if they are only solving a very specific problem, like because there's a difference between an app that is at the hub of an ecosystem, like Xero is at the hub of an ecosystem of apps. But then there might be like an app which is like a document scanning app, which is an add-on that links to Xero, right? Well, that add-on may solve one very specific function in the ecosystem. And that one very specific function could become obsolete with AI. And that's what I see happening. But if you're an app that's part of a ecosystem, you become inherently sticky.
Because you got to replace the entire ecosystem. I mean, it's just a way bigger problem to solve. And then also it's like, at the end of the day, okay, let's say you still need the function of that app. Do you want to be the one that builds it, maintains it, updates it, keeps it secure, hosts it? You know what I mean? That's where my head's like, yes, it's the cost to build. But the way this is my current view is like, I agree with everything. Like there's some core apps that's like really hard to see a world where that goes away entirely. And then there's like super futuristic of like, are we going to get to a place where there's just like an AI that is like the God brain of your business and just like everything goes in and out of this thing and you have no idea what happens inside of it, but it's running the business, Yeah, like at some point, I guess like I just assume like, yeah, it'll happen eventually, but is that in 20 years or 50 years or something? But even then, like the thing I go back to is what's probably going to happen is there's just going to be even more niche softwares. Like you're not going to be, instead of having just like a bunch of CRMs, like why wouldn't there be the CRM for this particular industry? And it's run by 2 developers and they've got 1,000 clients and it's a great software and they charge, what same price that HubSpot charges. It does 80% of what HubSpot does, but it eliminates all the other stuff that this particular industry wouldn't need. To me, that seems like a more plausible future of like all these developers that work at these mega software companies. First off, I do think that HubSpot and Salesforce or these massive Oracle, like these companies, they are going to lay off huge percentages of their labor force. But now you've got these really smart developers that aren't just going to be like, well, I guess that's the end. Like they're going to be like, all right, well, I got to figure it out and I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to do this thing. And like, so you have these experts that are going to just start building niche tools in the network that they have that people are asking for. And I think that it is going to create more, but I would actually say that integration is going to be 100 times more critical in the future than it is now. Just because there's going to be more apps that do very specific things that are only really valuable if it integrates seamlessly into the rest of your workflow.
Yeah, 100%. But I think if you look back historically and you think, okay, think of the time when the internet came out. I was just saying this to my kids the other day because, they were asking me about AI and stuff. And, when the internet, they don't remember a world before internet, but I do. And, when we went to school, we used to have to look things up in encyclopedias and we used to go to the library to study. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, Google, you have information at your fingertips. And so, yes, there are things that became obsolete, hardcover books and CDs and, the medium became obsolete. We don't see those things anymore, but people evolve and they, I think the problem that people are faced is like when people are faced with a problem, that's when the creative side of humans comes out, right? So as you said, all these people that are smart people that are working in a particular job solving problems, as soon as that goes away, the human brain kicks in and goes, what else are we going to do now? Like, we are hardwired. This is both our to our advantage and our benefit. We are hardwired to evolve, and we will look for creative ways and opportunities to fill gaps where it's needed. And that'll become smaller and smaller, no doubt.
When you say smaller and smaller, what do you mean?
What I mean is the opportunities, like the AI will continue to do things that we are used to doing much quicker and better, for sure. So that the gap of what the opportunity is will become more and more narrow. And do I have the answer? No, I'm not pretending to know that I have the answer, but I just think, we will continue to evolve and fill gaps and be creative and evolve alongside. And there will be jobs that will become obsolete because they are no longer best to be done by humans, but it will create a new category of skill set that, becomes the new void, the new thing that we're looking to fill.
Yeah. I just have a few of these experiences that I'm like, truthfully, I'm hoping are true, but they make sense to me. So I'm like, I don't see it's, are you more, is the future more likely to, resemble or rhyme or be some retelling of the past? Or is it actually like the end of the world, right? Like which one is it? And I would say you can go, there's been some really fascinating blogs and things that I've seen recently of like the number of times in human history where we all thought like, no, but this time it's different. And this time they're just like, we've always thought that. And so why this time when we do actually can see like, no, it is different because AI and AGI and general intelligence, like this is literally replacing the human. It's like, but that's what people thought forever. Like that's literally what every single thing. So why would I assume that now, like, is there a higher chance that I would be right if I was placing a bet to bet that, yeah, we're all out of jobs and we can all just retire on universal basic income? Or is it going to be a random explosion of something that's incomprehensible to anyone that is in here? I tend to lean towards it's probably another repeat of the past, right? It seems like a more safe bet and then the other thing I've said many times is, would you rather be on team optimism and lose or team pessimism and win? Like take your pick. I'd rather be on team optimism and be excited about the future. And if we lose and it is the end of the world, then, we went down and had a hell of a time. you know?
I think it's on everyone's mind, but no one really knows. But I think we're inherently hardwired to evolve, and that when we're faced with those problems or those limitations, that will create more evolution. We're just continually, we're never satisfied with being happy with what we have. That's also our curse. Like this is what's creating this situation is we are hardwired to evolve. We're hardwired to continue to, create new things and fill gaps. So it's in our human nature. If we were just hardwired to be satisfied with what we have and to, live, within our means and not try to do more and be better and, then I think life would be a lot simpler. So
yeah. Yeah. And that's actually the other thing is like, what I think is also, this is kind of stepping outside of the business that we're in, just from my own personal experience. One thing that I do believe is going to be even more critical. It's like humans have needed silence and, quiet, and our minds aren't made to be like bombarded with, 3,000 notifications a day. And like, so we are going to need prayer and meditation and like rest and detaching from the technology even more than we do now, and people are going to be seeking that, I think, because I feel like I'm like in it, and I'm also like, you know what, it'd be nice to go on a little retreat, leave my phone at home, and that I think people resonate with that.
100%. That'll be what we value is human connection and being able to detach and to, have real life experience and to be able to share experience, like that's, I think Daniel Priestley was talking about that. It's like AI will never be able to share its experience. Like it doesn't have memories that it's actually lived. So that will become a new form of currency, because that's what we have. That's what humans make humans is we have experiences and we remember and we've lived and we've experienced. It's currency in a sense. So I absolutely believe that'll be more and more valued. We see it every day. I mean, we learned that through COVID, didn't we? We learned how much we needed human connection and how it affected us when we didn't have it. So yeah, we're funny creatures. We create things that ultimately aren't good for us.
When I do have a question on Dent. I saw that you've named like Daniel and Glenn and Mike as some key mentors. When did you join the Dent community, or when did you come across? I don't even know how long it's been in existence, but it seems like you were pretty early on in some of the people that were a part of it.
Not early at all. It's been about a couple years now, but Dent's been around for over a decade.
I did not realize that. But you've been in it for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, a couple years now.
What's the biggest thing that you've taken from the ecosystem and their strategy? Because you were kind of doing a lot of this, it sounds like, before. And has your business like gotten significantly larger since being in Dent?
No, I wasn't doing any of this stuff in Dent. My business, I was really fortunate. As I said, I had really strong partnerships with the likes of Apple and Xero and all these SaaS companies that were lucky enough to ride this immense tidal wave of cloud technology in the last, from 2008 to 2021, it was huge. So I was lucky. I got a lot of referrals. I didn't do any formal marketing at all. It was all through partnerships, working as a partner for these ISV companies and referrals. And then I found that basically lead generation dried up. The market evolved. There's more competitors. Software companies had the capability to onboard themselves. They didn't need custom partners per se. They made it a lot more cookie cutter in terms of the way that they implement and onboard customers. So yeah, I had to reinvent myself again and realize that marketing, I had to own my own demand generation. I didn't before. I was reliant on getting referrals, and that well dried up. So I wasn't doing any of it. In fact, if you looked at my LinkedIn profile past 2 years, it was like I didn't even have a profile photo. All it said was CEO and nothing else. There was nothing on it. Wasn't posting any content. In fact, I had a massive imposter syndrome with like mixing work and pleasure. I kept the two separate, like Bruce Wayne, like just Batman at night and Bruce Wayne during the day. And kept them really separate. So it was a massive, where I came to then was two realizations. One, I needed to own my own demand generation. And two, I needed to build a personal brand, not a company brand, right? Because people follow people, not businesses. So that's why I joined. And so, has it grown the business? I think it's grown the business in the way of helping me redefine it again. We've evolved as a business and we've pivoted again. And it's now setting up the foundations to build a new frontier. And actually, it's exciting again. And it's helped me gain the confidence. I found myself in a situation prior to joining Dent where I wasn't confident to know whether or not I could navigate my way through this next pivot because I unlike you, I have never worked in marketing. I've never worked for a marketing company. I had a very big sales background, so I was very good in sales. But from a marketing point of view, and it was new. Like I wasn't involved in using any social media. We didn't even have a newsletter, right? We weren't even marketing to our own customers. We were spoiled. So I think Dent gave me the framework, and it also gave me the community to know that I'm not alone. Like running a business and growing a business can be a lonely place at times where you have nowhere to sort of like air out your laundry and voice your worries and your concerns. And just to know there are other people like yourselves that are going through the same journey is a bit of peace of mind.
That's really cool to hear. Yeah. I only joined, I think it was in January. So very new to it. And I feel like, I don't know, I guess I didn't mention this, that for my journey, I started posting YouTube videos of just like really specific painting software integrations. And this was maybe 2.5 years ago at this point, but it was the end of 2023, I believe. I basically said, like in September of 2023, I was like, I'm going to post a video every single day through the rest of the year. And I'm going to do 100 videos before the end of the year. And then I continued that practice up, and I was just posting like tutorials on this thing. And so I was like unknowingly following the key person of influence idea of just like, I'm just literally picking a niche and just like pumping out the prolific beats perfect. I like literally experienced that. And then 2 years go by, and then I read Daniel's book, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it's another one of those moments of just feeling like thinking for a while that you've invented or found some little hack. And then it's like, oh, someone literally has systemized everything that I've been doing. It would have been way easier if I did it the way that he suggested instead of my just like, lack of strategy. But at the end of the day, I was just doing a ton of output. And then I was able to slow down drastically. And because of the beauty of YouTube, it's like people were still finding the videos and they'd call in, and they're like, I always joke that I don't think I'm ever going to get one of the YouTube plaques for subscriber count. But if YouTube made a plaque for the most niche channel, I'm certain that I would be in the running for that plaque, because if you're not a painting company that's trying to integrate software, I have no value to you on the internet. But if you are, it's like, it's incredible.
Yeah, but I think that's to your credit, being hyper focused on who your ICP is rather than being a generalist and trying to like serve everyone. You're hyper focused on who your ICP is, and you're solving for that problem, and you're going to attract that right person, because that's who you're going to kick a goal with, right? When you find that right customer. So,
all right. So wrapping up here. Well, I guess I should say, anything else that you came here today, other key insights, principles, things that you want to share to just close this out?
Oh, not really. It was just to have a nice chat with you and, see where we can compare notes. And, I'm always interested in hearing about people's journeys, and flattered that even the word cloud integrator has made it that far that it's now a common term. That for me is validation, and to know that we've made that type of impact. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where is the source of, we were talking before and you said you don't read a lot of books, but you consume a lot of content. Do you have any recommendations on either your top 3, either podcasts or YouTube channels, blogs? Like, where do you absorb most of your knowledge and information, and what do you recommend people check out?
Yeah. So as I said, I was never really book smart going to school. I never really fit in with the traditional education method, and it wasn't until podcasts came out that I was like, wow, this is amazing. I can now listen to, you know, interesting conversations, and I can really like divulge in massive amounts of information and not get bored because I'm having to read it. So yeah, I like things like Diary of a CEO is definitely good. There's always great topics, the podcasts that are a lot more extended and have the ability to really go deep on a particular subject. I also listen to Lex Friedman. He's got a range because he's technology focused. He does jujitsu. I do jujitsu as well. So the type of people that he has on the show tend to, like really align with my interests. And very, I like the way he prepares for his podcasts. So he's very structured. So he asks the right questions, and I tend to get a lot out of it. I also like Andrew Huberman, more just from a healthy living and biohacking point of view. I'm always really interested in that. There's always a lot of information.
That's awesome. And a movie or show suggestion?
I don't watch movies. I find I don't have the patience to sit through a couple hours. And when I do, I find that the type of entertainment value that people are making in movies now is like, it's hard to find something that's really, it's more production level than it is like story level, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I tend to, if I watch, I'm actually finding myself watching a lot of old movies over again, things that have really good classic storylines like Blade Runner or something like that, Maybe I'll watch Terminator again and see how relevant it is.
Yeah. I just saw, where did I hear this? There's a podcast. I don't know. Have you heard of Founders? The podcast Founders by David Senra. Yeah. So David Senra has his own podcast, and he just interviewed Mark Andreessen from Andreessen Horowitz, the VC guy. And he mentioned that Silicon Graphics, who was like basically the mega, they were like Apple back in 1990. Basically, they were the mega company that was like, everyone was like, they are just too big. How could you ever dethrone this company? But Silicon Graphics was responsible for Jurassic Park and Terminator, the graphics in the movie. And their computers were like $50,000 to $100,000 minimum. Like that was their starting price for these computers. And anyways, you mentioned Terminator, and I was like, oh, it's super interesting that I just actually watched Jurassic Park with our kids, and it is crazy to think that movie was made in 1993, I believe. And the animation of the dinosaurs, of like, obviously they had some animatronic ones also, but just like the like when they're walking across the landscape and stuff, like obviously you can tell it's animated, but again, for 1993, it was wild. And that's why everyone, like, this was the cutting edge technology company of the time that was just like blowing everybody's mind. And then, like with all big companies, they didn't adapt.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So great. What was you said your Blade Runner and Terminator, two of your favorites?
Yeah, in terms of classic films, yeah, definitely. Gosh, I don't know. Maybe Shawshank Redemption as a classic film. One for a little bit of hope and purpose in life.
And if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do you recommend that they reach out?
You can reach out via LinkedIn. It's just LinkedIn, and then it's Jeffrey Atizado. Maybe you can add in the spelling in there, or you can reach out to j@smbconsultants.com.au is my email address.
Jeffrey, it was super, super fun. Appreciate the time. And Yeah, I appreciate getting to compare and talk about businesses and the similarities and all that stuff. So thank you for sharing your wisdom, and thank you also for putting in so many years ahead of us and ahead of me to carve the path for the next wave. So yeah, it's been good.
No problem. And thanks for inviting me on as a guest. I really appreciate it. I had a fun time having a chat with you.
Thank you so much for listening. My name is Chris Kiefer, and my mission is to champion the relentless pursuit of purpose. And what that means to me is to be an example, a champion, someone that is in the trenches, working and showing and winning and trying and failing in how to pursue a deeper and more meaningful life with the people that I love, with my kids, with my friends, with our family, and also just be a champion and example of entrepreneurship and following my passion and doing what I believe I'm called to on this earth. And so if that inspires you in some way, please share this episode. If you want, like, subscribe, share, whatever, do all the stuff. It means the world to me to get this message and get these guests that I have out there. And if you're interested in any of the book recommendations or looking up other episodes of the movie list, you can visit my website, chriskiefer.com, for all the details on the show, and also check out the Boolean review software, as well as the Boolean automation consulting company that I own for home service businesses. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.